together. And first, Dave, would you call the roll of commission members?
Okay. George Roberts.
Absent.
Ryan Allard.
Absent.
Joseph Hammer.
Here.
Tom Dean. Here. Dave Drake. Here. Dave Edwards.
He's absent as well.
Anthony Holnicky.
Here.
James Hughes.
Absent.
George Oikel.
Here.
Joseph Kalani. Here. Peter Lambruni.
Here.
Paul Thompson.
Absent. So by my count, we have, is it 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe. So all alternates will be participating. All right. So I guess we go right to the item 3.1, public hearing 2173-24Z Charles Drake Enterprises is being tabled to the April 16th agenda. That's for a special permit for a temporary patio with service station at 161 Main Street. We will not be hearing that application tonight. We have 2 public hearings. The first one is a continued public hearing, and before we get started, for those of you who may not have been here last time, in the public hearing process, we hear from the applicant first. Commission members may ask questions. We'll let the public speak if there's anybody here who would like to, and then we'll go back to the applicant with a chance to respond to whatever the public comments were. If you do choose to speak, you'll need to come up to the podium and just state your name and address for the record, and the applicant will have a chance to respond to questions after the public comment, as opposed to one by one in response to things that are raised. Another thing to keep in mind is once a public hearing is closed, we have time, so we don't necessarily need to vote on it the same night, although we often do. But once the hearing is closed, we can't take anything more by way of testimony or information from either the public or the applicant. With that said, item 3.2, which is application 2174-24, Patrick Snow, seeking a special permit in accordance with section 3.6.c, Accessory Buildings and Structures of the Wethersfield Zoning Regulations, for a shed over 200 square feet at 70 Kimberly Lane. That hearing was started at the last meeting on March 19th, and my understanding is a vote was not taken. The hearing was continued, so it's still open. There was a good amount of public comment at that hearing as well. And Justin, how was it? I guess I'm going to give an opportunity for more public comment if there's anyone here. And I don't know if the applicant has anything that you wanted to start with up front.
Sure. Patrick Snow, 70 Kimberly Lane. I guess there's 2 things I wanted to start with. Having had the public hearing continue, there were some public comments that I could address a few of them right away and just kind of go through it, and then if they still have questions. The first was some of the people, and I think there's a letter in the file of a woman of Beverly Sealand who was opposed to the project. So I will read this, a copy of this, but what this is an aerial of my home, which is 70 Kimberly Lane, and the distance of Miss, what's her last name, Sealand's address is 15 Ancient Highway, but she is 375 feet away through 2 houses, through trees that she would, I don't know how she would ever see this project if it does go forward. I don't see, unless she had a helicopter and a telescope, this would not affect her property or view at all. And I don't know if she was confused and she couldn't be if she thought it was another home. The other people were at the beginning of 70 Kimberly Lane, 31 Kimberly Lane, who came up. And I do understand their concern if this was used for something besides just a storage, that there would maybe increase traffic. They do have a basketball hoop set up at the end, so I do realize kids are playing. That is not the case here. So I wanted to say that again in public and to the commission. This is not going to be something I use for my business. It's not going to be something where, as I heard discussion, as I researched to the accessory dwelling unit, if this was going to be another living unit, I would apply under the proper statute or to do what I need to do for that. This is just going to be used for storage. There was other comments on size. This is too big. This is something that I don't feel is too big. That, in my opinion, is a matter of opinion. Someone may think that's too big. Someone may think the kitchen that they have is too big or too small. I consider that a matter of opinion. This is something that I've looked at and would fit my needs and would like to use in my home. So I think that's really the big items that I wanted to address that what came up last time. It will be used as a shed. There will be electricity there. There will not be water and sewer. And that's...
Could you just, is the dimension 18 by 26?
That's correct.
And
those plans, I think, were in the packet.
correct, they were, and there's a partial understory, basically, is it?
Right, because the grade of the land drops off towards the back, so rather than have concrete stick up, I did do it underneath, I guess you'd call it a walkout basement type of area.
Just trying to do the math on these. So the full floor, how many?
It's approximately 800 square feet if you look at both levels, 400 each
Together?
level. Together, yeah, maybe a little more.
Okay. And any commission members, before we go to the public, have questions? I know there are quite a few of us who were not at the prior hearing, and before we vote, but I might as well even do it now, just to verify, those of you who were not at the first hearing on this matter, have you had a chance to review and familiarize yourself with all the materials that have been distributed to us in our packets regarding this matter? I have.
I was not here, and I have reviewed the materials. I would like to know a little more about what happened
Sure,
last week.
we'll go through all that, but just in terms of so far getting here tonight, I wanted to just make sure that anyone who's going to participate ultimately in the vote reviewed the materials of what occurred last week. So has everyone done that who wasn't here? I know, Peter, you were here. Tom, you were here, right?
I was here.
And George, were you here?
I was here.
Okay. So Tony said he did, and I guess Dave and Joe?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You had some questions, Peter? Did you say, or, okay. I thought somebody just said they did, no? Tony wanted to hear a
My
little bit more.
only
Do you want to
other
ask some
question
questions?
was, other people that were against this, were there many?
Yeah, I think it's, how many were there if we add them up in the minutes here?
We hadn't got that far yet, I don't think.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, for those that weren't here,
Yeah.
I hope that members that are present here have reviewed today's agenda and the proposed minutes, which has the record of what transpired, at least in a kind of summary form that's contained in the proposed minutes that we'll vote on later on in this meeting. But just to remind folks that that's a good starting point for getting to know what happened last week.
And it looks like there were 4 people identified as speaking, I think, in opposition at the last meeting, and then we received some additional agenda comments for tonight from 2 people, one of whom also spoke at the prior meeting. And actually, I can just mention the 2 people offering comments for tonight are Bev Sealand of 15 Ancient Highway, and just to try to summarize this, she's unable to attend. Her concerns are that this is for a 2-story structure, larger than a standard garage bay, which she says would be 12 by 22. That the permit, she believes, is misleading because it only reflects the square footage for 1 story, not the actual total. She says of 936 square feet, considerably larger than the usually permitted 200 square feet. And then she says that although the permit indicates it's to be used for storage, she has concerns that the long-term usage could be for either tenant or business purposes. Once the structure is completed, what would be in place to ensure it continues to only be used for storage? And she says she presumes electrical service would be installed in the structure. What about plumbing? And even if plumbing is not initially installed, what would prohibit it from being installed at a later date, making it a possible residence? And she finishes up by saying the average tiny house is only 400 square feet, less than half the size of this proposed structure. All in all, she is clearly not in favor And, okay, then Amy Morgan of 73 Kimberly Lane cannot attend in person. Writing to echo the issues her neighbors have flagged in their communications. Proposed structure well exceeds the standard storage shed dimensions one would expect to see in a typical residential setting, and calls into question the purpose of the construction. We live in a quiet cul-de-sac. Residents are stewards of preserving that environment. This particular proposal does not seem to align with the spirit of that intent. And I guess just to flesh out the various speakers in terms of where their properties are in relation to Mr. Snow's. So in terms of the Kimberly Lanes, I guess we had 31 Kimberly Lane speak and 71 and 73 Kimberly Lane speak. Could you just point out where, do you know their numbers?
1518 Highway is here.
Okay.
31 Kimberly Lane is here, about 545 feet. 73, I believe, is across the street.
Okay.
And
71, I think, was the,
so it must
71.
must be these. Are you 71? So then, if they're 71, and that's 73 right there.
okay. So those are the last two on the other side?
They're across the street.
Okay.
Correct. So
Okay. Any commission members, feel free if you have questions of the applicant at this point. Anybody?
I have a question. Is your lot a double lot? I'm looking at the picture, I'm trying to figure out where,
it's when we developed this, we had the last lot. It's the same as what's across the street. I believe at 71. We're approximately a 2-acre lot.
okay, so I'm looking at I didn't know if you were going to be putting this on the side or behind.
If you're looking at, you see the drive, well, you're not looking at the picture I'm looking at, but if you're looking at the house to the right-hand side, it would be.
Right hand side, okay.
Using that aerial, could you just point out for us where the rear entrance that's down the level with the slope, which way does that face compared to where the street is?
Oh, the street, it would face this way, which is, if the street is here, this would be a level to the street, and the level would face towards the back of this property, to the woods. To walk
Towards
up,
the
to walk up.
backwoods is the, sorry, so where you would walk into it,
It's going to be here. There's going to be two places to walk in if there's two levels. The first area would be from the driveway, level with the driveway. The second area would be through the yard and down one level.
and could you just sort of go over again for the people who are here, what your intended use would be?
My intended
of
use
this
is storage for household items, and, people have said, you seem like a hoarder, but no, we're not hoarders. I have a lot of stuff that I do have. Accessories to boats, not a boat, because that would be part in the garage. We keep that at a marina. Items like seasonal items, lawnmowers, parts, sports equipment, bicycles, bikes, electric bikes, things of that nature.
And in turn, you said it's about how many square feet in total?
Approximately, I think it's 4 and 4, maybe it's 4, say under 900.
So
would be in that.
which, would this stuff be stored on both levels?
Yes, both levels. The bikes and items would probably be stored on we'll call it the first level of off the driveway.
Right.
And lawnmower items like that would be under let's call it the second level. On
And
the
is this
back.
something that's going to be constructed from scratch, or is
Yes.
it? Okay.
Do you mean the proposed structure?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
And what do you have now in terms of garage or outbuildings on your property?
I have garages, but no outbuildings.
Are the garages under the house?
They're on the side of the house, the same side, they're side entry garages on the same level as the driveway.
And how many,
3 bays,
and what do you have in there now?
3 cars. And bikes and lawnmowers, and,
Right. Anybody, and in terms of your so the direct neighbor on your side who faces your driveway,
correct?
they did not speak, I guess, at the last hearing?
They did not.
Okay.
And the lady I did speak with was the lady behind on Victory Lane, and she didn't speak, she was here, I spoke to her after the meeting.
Can you lift that up and just show us where
That was the neighbor right there.
and is there trees between you?
Yep, there's trees between us, there's trees also between me and the neighbor directly next door. And we designed that building so that there's no windows or anything that can be seen from her side, so it would be at least disturbance.
And what, if any, what, are you proposing to have electricity in the building?
Yes, I am proposing electricity.
Just for lighting?
Correct.
And would there be,
There's no water and no sewer.
and in terms of the door to get in where the equipment would come in, what kind of door?
It's a 6-foot slider.
And you're not storing any vehicles in this?
Correct. Well, you couldn't, because your structure is wood, I couldn't put a vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, I guess you could try, but it's going to be through the floor. It's going to be a problem.
Okay. Anybody have any questions at this point, Commission? Or why don't we, I'm going to go to the public now and then call
Sure, do
you
you
back after
want
that.
a copy of this map with you guys?
Sure, would you mind
No.
sending it around here? That would be good. Okay, anybody in the public who'd like to speak, please come right up. If you could just state your name and address.
Diane Raymond, 71 Kimberly Lane. My driveway is directly across from Mr. Snow's. I guess the first question I have is, can I see which neighbor it is that lives behind Mr. Snow that he spoke with?
Sure.
Can I look at the map?
Yes, let me just put this up for you so she can.
Or I can come to that way. Who was it that you said?
We got one?
Good. I have one. With the dogs.
Oh, Eunice Ecker, who's 79 years old. I went and spoke with her myself. And she was absolutely not in favor of this. I spoke with her about 2 weeks ago. She was not in favor of this. She wasn't at the last meeting, which you just stated that she was, and you spoke with her.
What's her address?
She is, I'm sorry, hold on, I have it on my notes here. 37 Victory.
So she's,
So she is
Directly behind him.
almost directly behind. She is the circled house where LN pops onto on the map.
yeah.
She has direct view into Mr. Snow's backyard. She is actually the one who let me know that while he does have a 3-car garage, he also has tenants that live in the basement and above the garage, which is part of the reason why there's no room for storage within the garage. She's the one who told me about that. She also pointed out plastic chairs, a table in the woods that are on his property that have been there for years, just kind of like, you know, that white stuff that you buy from, I don't know, wherever you buy it from. Spilled over. She said that there's been garbage out there for long periods of time that nobody picks up.
What do you mean, stuff around in the woods?
In the woods. So Mrs. Ecker can see from her house into Mr. Snow's backyard. And she says that there's tables and chairs where one of the tenants that lives above the garage is used to hang
Tables and
out.
chairs that are in his yard.
In his yard, along with trash loaded
Kind of like
everywhere.
Permanent,
She says it comes and goes. I mean,
Okay.
animals pick up stuff.
so it makes, what you were saying, it makes sense for him to have a place to put that kind of materials? She didn't say.
She didn't say, she just
Okay.
pointed out to me tables and broken chairs that are back there.
Okay.
She's the house that has the LN.
LN written on it, yes. I went and spoke with her, like I said, probably the morning of our last, when the last hearing was 2 weeks ago from today. She was not in favor of anything built there. I also question, you say that you have lawnmowers that need to be stored. You have a lawn service. You have a snow service. So I question what you need a 900 square foot structure for when you have services that come in. Your kids are in junior high school and in college, so I'm not sure what kind of sporting equipment is there. I have concerns about the traffic. I have concerns, I have 2 kids, I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old. The neighbors who live directly next door have a 5-year-old and a 12-year-old. Unfortunately, due to childcare, she wasn't able to be here last time or tonight due to bedtimes for the kids. She's concerned. She's actually the one who brought this to my attention. The day the sign went up, she texted me probably within a half an hour of it going up. She had a lot of concerns. We had a lot of concerns about traffic because as is, there is a lot of traffic. I mean, I expect traffic with kids and friends and whatever as they start driving, but there's a lot of traffic with 2 tenants that live within the house. But that's a whole separate issue because I don't know if the house is zoned for that. And you can't say that family lived there when you're listing the apartment on apartments.com. So I have concerns about what this structure is going to look like. You're looking at almost 900 square feet. That's the size of a small single-family home put on the property. I mean, that is going to be directly across from my driveway goes, I could drive straight on my driveway into there. So there's going to be additional traffic. I don't know if this is going to be used maybe down the road for business, maybe for kids' friends to hang out. I don't know. I have major concerns about this traffic that's going to be going there, and I have concerns about how it's going to look. I mean, this is a large structure. So that's where, I wasn't able to be here at the last meeting. I know that all these concerns have been voiced, but I just felt like I needed to reiterate them.
And is your house directly across?
Directly across. I mean, you can look at where it drives out, I am right across.
Okay.
Right across.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Yes, please come up.
My name is Sean Morgan. I live at 73 Kimberly Lane. We live next door to the Raymonds. Excuse me. Just wanted to express some concerns about just the size of the structure and its intended use. I mean, I suppose it's conceivable that it's going to be used to store household items. It seems unlikely to me. A 900 square foot structure to store household items, to me, it defies logic. And it's hard for me to envision that being used for non-commercial or even non-residential purposes. As Diane said, it's a very large structure. We have concerns about it as well. Unless and until there's more information about what precisely is going to be stored in a two-story, 900 square foot structure, I think the council should consider whether this is something that should be zoned or allowed. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Melissa Martin, 31 Kimberly Lane. I also spoke at the last meeting, but just wanted to get up again to some of the members that were not here last time, and just echo some of the same concerns that have been voiced. I'm right when you drive onto the street, one of the first homes. We've been living on Kimberly Lane over 10 years. It's been a very nice and quiet street. We've enjoyed living there very much. We enjoy our neighbors very much. I just too have concerns over the structure that Mr. Snow's proposing. Upon hearing about it and reviewing the plans, it is very large. Like everyone else has mentioned, the size of a home. And I just want to ensure, even though he has stated that it is not going to be used for business purposes. I know he owns a construction company, and just want to make sure that that's not being used to meet with clients or store equipment or have employees coming in to drop things off. As others have mentioned, I have children as well that live on the street, love playing on the street. We've had an increase in children over the last couple of years with some new families that have moved in, and just want to ensure that the street stays quiet and that we're not having additional traffic coming in on the street. And the same concern of there not being tenants. I know that there's currently 2 living there now, and just making sure that this is not being used for that purpose. Once the structure goes up, I mean, like anybody's homes in town, nobody knows what's really going on inside. You can say it's not being used for something, but until we're physically in there, we don't know if plumbing can be added or things can be added. There's going to be a complete walkout basement. It just seems like an excessively large space for lawnmowers. I think last time he mentioned Christmas trees, bikes. Typically, if you're going to be storing that type of equipment, you would have double doors, not a sliding door. I mean, we don't bring our lawnmower in through a sliding door or a single door. You've got bigger doors to bring in those types of things. So it just seems a little bit suspicious. We're just concerned, and yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Yes.
Hi, I'm Chris Ryan. I'm at 53 Kimberly Lane. So I heard the plans last time about the storage and all and the size of it, and I agree it's pretty large. I think some of the questions you just raised, or you read from one of the emails, I was wondering if you could answer some of those. That kind of sums up some of the things we were talking about. how you keep it from becoming, you know, rental space or used for business or anything else, the ones you read from the first email. I was just wondering, like, what happens down the road, and if if it turns into that, what do you do about it? How do you keep it from happening?
Yeah, I guess, I think Justin, our town planner, can respond in more detail, but generally speaking, first off, if somebody was trying to have some type of home business or home occupation, that requires a different type of approval that this would not cover. It's not supposed to be used for living purposes either, but I think, as a practical matter, I think the way the town becomes aware of things, if they occur on any property in a way that's not in compliance with the regs, is, a neighbor complains, an inspection is done, and I think that's probably typically how you would find out about it, because otherwise, as has been pointed out, it's not that you're monitoring, the inside use of any particular property. But Justin, would you like to?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good summary. The only thing I would add is that, in terms of, as it's proposed right now, with just the electrical connection, it couldn't be suitable for a living space. You would need plumbing. Plumbing would require building permits, so there'd be additional steps that would sort of alert the town as well. This type of structure, without adequate insulation, without adequate, living quarter spaces, that would all show up in the building permits that he would have to obtain when he goes through the process. In terms of a home occupation being run out of there, the chairman is right with that. It would have to, if a concern came up from a neighbor, our zoning enforcement officer would investigate, look at it, determine if there is an operation being run there. As the chairman said, it would not be in compliance with any approval issued today, so it would be an enforcement issue at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I like you said, it's larger. We said it was like 900 some square feet, larger than a normal shed, but I don't have a problem with, if it is storage, it was just business use and rental and not having additional traffic on the street. That was the only concern. So, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay. All right, I don't see any takers. Last call for additional public comment. If not, then we'll give the applicant a chance and also the commission a chance to follow up with questions. Would you, Mr. Snow, like to respond to any of the things you've heard so far?
I think I've tried to address that before. This is not intended to be a residential use. As the town planner pointed out, there's no sewer, there's no, it's just no water, there's nothing there. And in order to get it there, you'd have to do a lot of different site work, we'll say, that would be beyond any of those items. So I don't know how to guarantee that this would be the use, but that's what it's intended for. As far as the bigger structure, the plans are here. I don't think it's a big structure at all. I mean, it's 900, but half of that is below ground. So I would respectfully disagree with that assessment that it's a large structure in my mind. But as far as traffic goes, there'd be no increase in traffic to the house, and I think those are the really concerns that I could address at this point.
I guess a couple things I'll ask you based on what people said. Again, I don't know what there's been some comments just in terms of the situation in the main house, but I just want to ensure that whatever is stored in this structure, if it's approved, would be your belongings, or put another way, it would be belongings of the owner of the property, correct? And no one else's stuff? Another question I guess I just wanted to ask you is, from grade, what's the maximum height of the structure, depending on wherever that might be, whichever point?
So it's the same, it's from the driveway. You would be approximately 15 feet, 16 feet, because you have the first floor and then you have the peak of the roof. So maybe 14, 15 feet.
Okay, and then last question, and then over to Peter. Did you consider anything smaller than this? Yes?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, from the back where the entrance will be is 23 feet.
To the eave or to the peak?
The lady directly behind him, if she looks through, she'll see a 23-foot structure from because from where the sliding door is to the top, it's 23 feet, which is 5 feet higher than the allowed. 18 feet is the allowed for any structure.
Maximum height, so is that not based on an average grade calculation?
It is based on the average grade.
Has that been calculated here?
Yeah, and typically what we do is we look at it from the grade, from the front. However, based on the fact that this is here for a special permit, which grants the authority to grant the higher structure, it would allow for that.
No, I understand.
If this group approves it,
Yeah.
right.
Where's the 18-foot limit? I saw that earlier today, but
2.5.4.
here, go ahead.
Let's see, maximum height, right here.
And then is height defined as, just adjacent, maybe building height? Do you know, here. So just so people know, the height is defined as the vertical distance from average ground level along the front wall of the building to the highest point of the roof or parapet, whichever is higher,
So this example kind of shows this situation. So the building height is
even though it's
correct.
taller in the back. Okay.
Right. So it takes the peak.
Gotcha. Right, anybody else on the commission with additional questions? Tom?
Yes, sir. I'm curious, with regards to your main house, do you have a basement in your home?
Yes, we do.
Is it finished?
It is,
Is it a full basement?
yes. When you say full, what do you, I mean, is the whole thing finished?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so the whole thing is also finished?
I mean, there's a furnace area, there's area that's not finished, but most of
Okay,
it
so
is.
you've got essentially a machine room within the basement then?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I guess I was just going to ask you, did you consider, do you have the ability to put something there that doesn't drop off to the back, but, is level on the upper portion, smaller, so that it wouldn't?
The only way to do that would be to show more concrete, which is what the neighbor from the behind would then see more concrete is, because the grade drops off, so it's hard to.
And so part of this has to go down the grade?
Correct.
No matter how?
No matter how, yes.
Do you have any other place you can place it where it doesn't drop down the grade? On flatter ground?
Then you'd be driving, probably not. As the closer you get towards the other side of the house, it becomes all wetlands. It's a wetlands area there that would be hard to build on.
And how about closer to the driveway area? Is there?
I'm on the driveway, that's where I am right now.
So can I ask one?
Yep.
I was going to say, Steve, can't you push that more west around the back? I know you have wetlands, but you still got a lot of space. Is this way nobody would see it?
Well, as of right
Push
now,
it north, you push it north and to the west to wrap it around more to the backyard. Unless you plan on putting pavement right up to the door. Was that what your plan is eventually?
well, that's how we proposed it. And
I see it in the picture. I don't see it in your proposal, though, but you're going to have pavement right up to the front door.
We're building on the edge of the current driveway.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So, but just to understand from the plot plan, the edge of that structure is the edge of the garage. So you're not going to, if you're seeing
No, I
from,
see it, yeah, I got it.
directly from the street, you will not see this.
Why aren't you putting a garage door in the front of this? Just because you don't have a good floor?
Because there's only three, you can only have 3 garages in a house. I wanted to make it look not like a garage. But I could, and I'd rather put a garage in the front if that's something that's allowed. I thought that would be.
I'm just curious.
I mean,
Like the lazy, you're not putting lawnmowers inside this thing. You're not hauling a lawnmower through a patio door. I mean, something doesn't make sense to me.
Well, that's why it's the basement 6-foot sliders where the.
Yes, I mean, so you have a 6-foot sliding window or 3-foot and 3-foot?
The door itself, it's a 6-foot door that slides, so you'd have 3
You slide it
foot.
30 inches, I'm just saying.
Correct.
It's, like I said, I'm not necessarily
But to
against
your
it,
point,
just-
David, if you, I'd love to put a garage door in the front of that. I was told that was not allowed, so I didn't do that.
You don't want them to make it look like a garage.
What?
You don't want them to make it look like a garage.
I'm not sure what I want it to look like. I'm just looking at this thing with just a door on it. but-
Trying to design this from the here is not easy.
No, I could just see, to me, if I was a neighbor, I'd want to see it around back more, but I understand you have pavement, you want to line it up with the doors.
And then, I mean, then that would create a question of what do you want to see from the front? Do I add 2 windows on that? I mean, I could do that, I guess, if that's amiable.
No, I'm with you.
Tom, what's the height of your existing house?
Normally 32 feet, I believe, if I
So
had to
this,
say that.
this doesn't overpower the house in any way or form,
No.
height-wise?
It does not.
It'll be rough stud, stick-built?
Correct.
Will you have insulation and drywall on it?
No.
Will there be a ceiling on it? Drywall ceiling finished?
There'll be no drywall.
No drywall?
No drywall.
So it's just electrical only?
Electrical only, studs, and that's it, no insulation.
So it's really just, and tell us about the items in the yard that are cast away into the side of the woods, plastic tables and chairs and...
There's, well, first of all, there's a fence, then there's a space, and then there's a set of trees. And I walked, she was here at the last meeting, and I walked back there. There was one, I'll call it a 2x4 block of white styrofoam that the kids used to use when they used to shoot their bow and arrows back there for target. And I took it and threw it away. Now there's nothing
Pretty
back
well
there.
cleaned up?
Yeah, there is a chair and 2 tables back there, but what had happened was my daughter, when she was there, would go back and there's 2 dogs that Eunice has that would pet them. Yeah, I'm just saying that's was why they were there, they're not.
You still have an office in Cromwell?
I do,
So you don't have any commercial use here?
correct.
Any commercial trucks or any commercial vehicles, diesel trucks or any heavy duty?
No,
No dump trucks?
no, we don't own any, no.
And most of the cars are in the garages, or
Yep.
do you ever have cars on the front, the lawn and on the grass? And
No,
no, you're not changing tires or engines or
no,
anything like that in the yard?
no. I wouldn't know how to.
Okay.
Just to get a sense of the scale of the proposed structure in relation to the house, how large is the house in terms of square
Square
feet?
footage, it's around 35 if you don't include the basement. So I don't know how you want to include, if you include the basement, you're closer, probably 4 or 5.
And 2 stories above?
Above grade, 2 stories, yes.
So the height of the proposed garage is, again, from the front elevation? looking at-
Approximately 15 or 16 feet,
And the height of your house?
approximately 35 feet.
Thanks.
Does the rear, or the part of your house, does your house
A
go
walkout,
into a
yes, it
slope
does.
as well?
Yes, it does.
So whatever that side of your house is that faces the other street behind you that we were talking about earlier, just out of curiosity?
Ancient highway?
Yeah.
That's, yes.
How, actually, is it ancient? Is that the one, with the, I'm thinking of the other one, I think. Like this.
So ancient, Victory Lane. Yep, no, that's Victory.
I'm thinking of the Victory Lane side.
Okay.
Does your house have a slope on it facing Victory Lane, the main house?
Yes, it starts high and then drops down to the level of Victory Lane.
So if you're looking from Victory Lane, how high is the main house above grade, would you say, at its highest point?
It's 3 stories, so you're going to be probably 40 feet, if I had to, just from that portion.
And that's because the lower level is exposed on that side because of the grade?
Just on the back, right, drops down the 10 feet. But, I mean, as you see in the picture, we have a very dense tree in between. I mean, no, this time of year, it's not as much, but it is shaded and protected.
Commission members, any more questions? Just want to make sure we've covered everything, and I guess,
Can I ask one question? Just the basic rules. We put in the 200 square foot just to make sure people come in here.
I think it's to make sure people come in here, and by making it require a special permit.
We do break the 200 square foot. We don't go like crazy big, but
Well, I guess, I think we have, but I guess my point was by requiring a special permit with a public hearing, under our regs, we're supposed to look at all the potential impacts that it could have to surrounding properties? Is it out of scale in other situations, traffic, noise, light spillage, et cetera? But I think one of them is that it's appropriate for the area, basically, under the special permit regs.
I mean, for me, I look at it, he's got plenty of land for it, but it's still big.
Right.
You got the wetlands encroachment.
No, I understand, but it's still.
So it is limited.
It's still a big, you keep talking, it's like 945, it's a big, with two sides. It's no slouch for a shed, it's far beyond a shed.
Right, and
But he has no space for it. I'm gonna
He's
give him
probably
that.
got the biggest property in town.
No question, right, but just, it is big though, so, we have our rules, so I just.
Right, but I guess, but again, under the special permit, it's for us to decide whether a certain degree of big that's being requested is appropriate or not.
I agree.
I'm just curious.
Do you want to come back up? Since there aren't that many people here, we'll, and if you could identify yourself again, please.
Melissa Martin, 31 Kimberly Lane. I'm just curious as to what, in the town, what are typical sheds running in the town of Wethersfield, size-wise?
Size-wise, I mean, do you happen to know, Justin, what?
Justin got an answer to that?
Well, I don't have an average, but what I can tell you is in the past 2.5, I have a statistic in my report here. The commission's approved 10 oversized sheds since 2020.
But you're not sure if it's 400 versus 600 or?
No.
And I don't remember. Does anybody else in terms of, Peter?
I also was wondering that same question, and I didn't go back through all my notes, but I think we've approved up to 20-30% more than the 200 square foot. Because what normally happens is people go and buy sheds.
Right.
And they're
And the
bigger.
sheds that they buy are usually a little bit bigger than 10 by 20. They're like 12 by 20
Right.
or 14 by 20. So they come to us and they say, look, I got to buy this thing, and I'm a little bit over, would you approve it? That's what we've normally
We're
approved.
like in the high 2s or in the 3s or something,
Usually no
right?
foundations.
No, they're usually placed on slab or
Right.
on posts, and they're usually manufactured things that have like double doors that look like barns.
Right.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm kind of reinforcing what Peter has indicated. My recollection of those have been approved, they've been in the range of generally 20 to 40% larger than the 200 square foot. We have approved some that have been up to 100% larger, around 400 square feet. I don't know of any that have been larger than that.
Right.
And so, well, I do have some comments, further comments, but I'll wait until there's a motion in play and we have a chance to offer comments and debate upon the matter.
Yeah, and I guess I just want to say, if to the extent that anybody, I don't know whether people feel this way, but if anybody felt they wanted more information from Justin in terms of going back and doing a check just to see what are the size ranges on our prior approvals, I'm not sure if you'd be able to do that easily or not.
No, we could do that.
You would, but I think in order to do that, we probably would need to keep the hearing open to give everybody a chance to speak. George?
Why are we getting into this? Because the zones in town are much smaller all over town. And when I go out and look at things out there, garages and stuff like that, this area is a huge site, and all the homes on these streets are very large. They're the newest ones in town. And so I don't see a problem with something like this. So, trying to compare it with elsewhere in town may not be quite fair either.
Well, I do agree that there are larger homes up in the neighborhood that we live in, but I don't see any other homes having sheds of this size. I mean, I have a shed in my backyard that was constructed, not a pre-built shed. We constructed it, came to the town. I don't know the dimensions, unfortunately, but I mean, it's an appropriate size shed for items that, it would be used for. I guess I would just ask that, potentially the shed maybe, be could be smaller if possible. I mean, no way to say, you know, what people store in their homes or attics or what parts of their homes, but, you know, 2 full floors and a finished basement, it just seems, and if the finished basement is being used for tenants to live there, then yes, and that diminishes the storage space, and we need to get into extra storage space, so I don't know. That's it, thank you.
Wait a minute, man.
Yeah.
Hold on. Are you saying this is too big for the area, the neighborhood? Or
I
what?
think it's very large, yes. Even though this is
In other words, his lot doesn't accommodate it because of its size?
I think
Or
it's
the
a
size of the other lots nearby?
large lot, but because of the slope in the back, this is not like a flat lot out in the
No.
countryside somewhere where a massive structure like this would be completely appropriate. In a small, not small lot, but in a lot of this style with, like I said, with the slope, it just seems very large for that space. Yes, I mean, I walk down the street all the time, and I can see down his driveway, so I know exactly where this structure would be. It's going to be large. I mean, I don't know how many of you have actually driven over to Kimberly Lane to see where this structure is going to be. Looking on a map is, you know, it's hard to get a feel until you're there. I mean, you're going to look right at the end of his driveway, and it's going to be right there. And like I said, I'm not opposed to it being used for storage. We all have things that we need to store. I just think a smaller size could be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, can I ask the town planner? This is probably one of the larger ones in town? Or don't you know? the
I would
answer to
imagine
that?
so. I would imagine so, yes.
Oh, okay.
In terms of a shed, it'd be one of the larger ones, I would think, yeah.
Okay. But all the other ones are probably in zones and areas that
Right.
may be really tighter.
Right.
In the sense of adjoining properties.
Correct.
for
To
example.
your point, this zone is a much larger lot zone than, say...
In a zone where lots are much larger.
Correct.
Probably the largest in town.
Correct.
Well, I know.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, this is the AAOS zone, so the lots are quite large. Yeah.
I thought it was. Thank you.
Let's see, we have it here.
Come back up.
Well, the minimum lot area here is 15,000 square feet, but it requires open space as well, so it's a calculation.
Okay.
Diane Raymond, 71 Kimberly. While Mr. Snow's lot may be 2 acres, most of that is not buildable or anything on because of the wetland, and also the rest of us on the street are not that large. I mean, I want to say we're 3/4 of an acre. So the rest in the street are not that large. Most of his land is wetland at the end of the street that abuts to the Morgans, where you can't build on because it's all wet. So while he may have 2 acres, it's not 2 sprawling acres. It's 2 compacted acres because of what he can build on. We're 0.35? Yeah, so, I thought less, I thought more.
But he still
So-
has, but he still has big space, so that's what we're trying to, you know.
But it's all filled with trees, and you don't know if it's,
No, he's not going to be there.
you know, you don't know that, I didn't even know that some of that wetland that's over kind of between his and 73 was his property. I just assumed that was all town wet property, because there's a little body of water kind of behind back there where you can't do anything on. So you're not talking about adding a shed onto 2 acres, you're talking about adding a shed onto a much smaller area. And now this is going to start to look like Lego pieces being, stacked together. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just to clarify, because everybody's throwing out acreage here, on the plot plan, the existing square footage of this property is 57,510 square feet. That's a little bit over an acre. So it's like 1.2 acres, something like
The
that.
size of the lot,
Size of the lot is about
and that includes some wetlands.
I would assume so, because it's...
1.3, it says right here.
1.3?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be 1.3.
I would defer, that's correct, my statement is incorrect, if that's
Okay.
1.3, is whatever's on the plan, yeah.
Yeah, it's on the plan.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard a lot of comments here, but I think, part of the equation is with the slope, how's it going to look for the people on other properties looking at it, right, from the other direction?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there any reason he can't put 2 sheds up?
Or I guess I was going to just ask him if he's consider,
No, I'm just just looking, you know.
You can put up to 3 by regulation.
No, what I'm saying, I'm looking at neighbors with multiple sheds that probably add up to his. He just put 2 sheds up instead of 1. I'm not necessarily for what you're trying to do, to be honest with you. I'm just looking at it. You have a big space here. Put 2 sheds up.
Well, Dave, he's got a lot of wetlands.
No, I agree 100%, but there's still space.
But it's going to be tough with all the wetlands to really put a lot of structures there. It really is.
Let me just make it.
I mean, if you go see it, literally, at the end of that driveway, it drops off and it's all wet.
Yeah,
And I know we're just brainstorming, Richard, but I think there'll be more, not as visibly pleasing as even just 1.
So I have a question for you, Mr. Snow. So, I mean, hypothetically, you've got 18 by 26. If you reduced the 26 dimension and brought it in, I don't know, just to make it a square, if you made it 18 by 18, if you came back 8 feet closer to your driveway, would that mean that the exposed wall would not extend as far down the slope, and therefore the property, I can't remember the name of this.
Victory.
Would the property on Victory be seeing less back wall on the shed if you were to decrease?
Yes, I mean, of course, they would, but 8 feet, they could still see the 8 feet, so I don't know how much that would really do, but I'm open to that if that's something that's...
Yeah, I mean, I guess, based on the comments, I guess I'd be very, very interested in terms of what you might have as ideas in terms of how you could adjust it smaller, and part of that being...
Currently towards Victory Lane, there's, again, a row of bushes that we put in when we built it. From there, they're probably 20 feet high, plus there's 2 big, larger oak trees that are back there. So as far as screening goes, I think it's already screened. So would that 8 feet make a difference? I'm not opposed to making it a little bit smaller that way.
Can I follow up? If you did bring it back 8 feet, you're probably going to avoid the slope. I mean, I didn't go to your backyard, but I went there and looked carefully, and you had a flat spot where you could probably not have to cut down so far and have a walkout. Then you could have like a normal one-level shed, right?
No, because it drops off pretty fast off that driveway. You know, we're still going 18 feet, probably starts to drop off right immediately, and it gets to probably grade maybe 8 feet, 10 feet back.
I couldn't see it very well, so I...
We're happy to call, we can walk out there.
That's all right.
So
to answer your question, I forget who asked it now, but yes, I'd be open to if this commission approved to say, instead of going back 26, come back 18, that's fine.
what would that approximately do to the overall square footage of the floor area?
I think Peter can calculate
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, but then you got the double
18 by
floor
18, what's 18 by 18?
Times 2.
times 2.
It'd be 260 in one floor, roughly 432 floors, which would be consistent with what we've approved in the past.
432 total, Peter, you're saying, right? Yeah.
18 by 18.
Right, 18 by 18 is 324, right, plus.
Times 2, so it'd be 650.
Wait a minute, is it 12 by 18 or 18 by 18? Which way
18 by
did you go?
18.
Well, you just said, he said making it square,
I was just
18 by
using that as an
18.
example to make it a
It's
square.
325, so it's 325 times 2 is 650, so 18 by 18. Is that something you can live with, 18 by 18?
I can.
Okay, that's something we should talk about. That's,
I mean, I threw that out.
Yeah, 18 by 18 is 325, right.
I guess we could make this like a car discussion and say, okay, we got you to 18 by 18.
18 by 19.
How much more would you be comfortable with? I mean, seriously, are you comfortable with?
18 by 18 is fine, that's
Are
acceptable.
you comfortable with anything further reduced that would still suit your needs?
If you can keep it at 18, 8 by 18, that'd be great.
Why are we trying to design this for the man?
I think we're just trying to deal with the mass of the building and try to account for the various comments and concerns to see if we can find a middle ground here, right?
You want to table it and send it back to him for reconsideration?
no, we don't have to do that. If he
No?
agrees with it, I'd be agreeable to 18 by 18, I don't know. That shrinks it down a little bit more reasonable. It's still a big building, it's just not,
Right.
I don't know, why go back?
You know, the only other thing I guess I will offer is for those people who have not physically been on the property, if there was a feeling that you wanted to be, before we take action, we certainly could ask to do that as well.
No, I've seen it.
You've seen it, right?
Fine with me.
Does anybody else have anything further? Commission members?
Back in there.
Tom?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're kind of getting involved into the details of our considerations, so possibly it's time to close the hearing and offer a resolution and debate and discuss the matter within the ranks of the commission itself.
I mean, that's fine if that's what people want to do, but I just want to make sure that if we close it, you're satisfied, you have everything you need to vote. So, for example, if you wanted the applicant to come back with anything further, show us anything further, staff look into anything further, we will no longer have the opportunity. Everybody feel they have enough? Does somebody want to make a motion to? Do you have anything further, Mr. Smith?
No, I guess the only thing, to address the neighbors' concerns of if it's going to be a dwelling unit, I mean, I understand, I've been in building, and if I had to do that, I would come back as an ADU type of application. That's not what this is just for storage. But if I did need to change it or had the intention of, that's how I would go about it, not doing this. Just to make sure.
Yes.
Final question.
Yep, if you could identify yourself again, please, thanks.
Again, I'm Sean Morgan, I live at 73 Kimberly Lane. I just, from a procedural standpoint, I'm a little bit confused. There was a proposal, this was a hearing on that proposal. I've heard what seems like some discussion around maybe an alternate proposal. Is that, what happens next? Like, there was different dimensions, a different footprint discussed, like, what exactly are we talking about here?
I think in essence, I mean, we have the ability to approve something with the condition that it be made smaller. I mean, we have the ability to say instead of 18 by 26, we're only approving you for 18 by 18. But the purpose of asking the applicant was to just try to see what he would be willing to do on his own. And now that he's said he would go to 18 by 18, I think you bring up a good point. I think it would essentially be the same footprint. The width of 18 from what he proposed wouldn't change, and in terms of the 26, you would just be taking off 8 feet farthest away from his house. But I don't think it would be that complicated to articulate that.
Presumably then there would be another permit application for 18 by 18 in another hearing.
I think if he were approved for 18 by 18, he would just basically have to come to the building department with a building permit application and a diagram or a plan showing that it's 18 by 18 as approved. But our role would be done if we approved it.
So the revised footprint doesn't rise to the level of a public hearing, is that right?
Correct. Peter? Not another public hearing.
Maybe I just add something for your edification. We're debating alternatives. I mean, it's still an open meeting. You can comment on the alternatives. You're standing there as anybody can.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I mean, it's not another meeting. You can do it right now if you like. I mean, if that's where you're going with the question, you're free to comment on 18 by 18.
Sure, I'm just suggesting that the people that are here to comment have considered the proposal, the original proposal, and now there's apparently maybe a revised proposal, and they should have the opportunity to comment on that as well.
Sure, no, that's fine. I'm going to give everybody, if any of you would like an opportunity to comment on a potential 18 by 18 rather than the originally proposed 18 by 26 field.
Okay, so is that on the table now as we speak?
He's offered it, and I think based on the discussion that we've had, if he's, I don't think anybody here is going to go bigger than 18 by 18, so I think effectively that's what we're now talking about.
Okay, I just wanted to understand sort of the steps. I don't have any specific thoughts on the revised proposal at this point. So.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes.
Melissa Martin, 31 Kimberly Lane. Yes, I feel like this is like a new proposal, which I like that we're, trying to figure out how to come to some type of an agreement here. But I feel like that should be a new proposal. I mean, what is this structure going to look like? There should be a floor plan or a footprint or a drawing or something so that we can see. I mean, we've had so much discussion and back and forth on this structure, and now we have no idea what it's going to look like. Where is it going to be on the lot? How much is it going to be in the back? I mean, I think there's still a lot of questions, even with bringing down the size of the shed.
Explain, turn it down and come back with a new proposal.
We hear you, and we can discuss that one further. Anyone else? Yes.
Diane Raymond, 71 Kimberly Lane. Mr. Snow just stated that if he were going to be doing anything, he would submit the paperwork for all that. So it just gets me wondering what he could be thinking about doing next. You're asking if there's going to be plumbing, you're asking if there's going to be any sort of that, and when he made the comment that if he were to do that, that leads me to believe that there's something more on the table with this, that we're not hearing the whole story.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? So I guess I'm going to ask Justin to comment. I mean, I think it is fairly simple just in terms of where the footprint would be if he went to 18 by 18, because it could be reduced based on his current plan. But how would the view of the sides be affected? The window placement, things like that.
Right, so it's all dependent upon the conditions that you place on it. So if you say, you're going to make a motion to approve an 18 by 18 reduced size, I'd recommend that you put conditions for the footprint, so you'd say the footprint shall remain the same as shown here, except for the fact that it'll be reduced on the rear side, so it'll be reduced by that 8 feet. In terms of the windows, I would say, the windows shall remain the same quantity, meaning 2 on the, I guess it'd be on the north side. The doors shall remain the same. The view from the front would not change because it's the same width.
Right.
The only thing that would really change would be the length on the opposite sides. So the only design feature on that side would be the windows.
Justin, you mean we wouldn't turn this down? We would just tell them to come back?
We would basically approve it with conditions, I think.
Just approve it with conditions.
Right.
You could. You don't have to, but you could. It's within the commission's purview to also say that you'd want to see revised plans to that effect before approval.
Right. Right, so we have a number of choices we could make.
If you were to ask for revised plans, I would not close the public hearing, because that would change,
Yeah, okay.
So it's really,
You don't have to, anyway, yeah, it does make sense.
it's really the left elevation sheet A4 where
That would be the real
those windows are
area
going
of
to get
change. Yeah,
closer together.
Right, they shrink in.
And which way do they face in relation to the plot plan?
So they face the north, so they face, basically, the only person that would really see the windows would be the property owner.
So, again, I think we ought to just have some discussion in terms of whether people feel they want to see revised plans, whether they feel that if we were to approve with conditions, potentially with the reduced size, that would be defined adequately, that we could act on it, without seeing revised plans. Yes?
Ask the applicant to come up and,
Sure, and ask them.
I think you've heard us about the options of continuing this and asking for more detail. You've hired a surveyor already to do the site plan that you've done already?
Yes,
And did you hire a draftsman or an architect of some type to
yes,
do the quick elevation drawings?
yes,
So you've got a couple $1,000s invested in a proposal,
correct.
and you're modifying a proposal from 26 feet to 18 feet, which is a significant change in your proposal.
That's correct.
So what we'd be asking for you is to throw another couple $1,000s in to satisfy the elevation drawings that would complement what you have there now, right?
Correct.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel that's fine, I don't have any issue doing it as long as I have some assurance that it's going to be approved. I don't want to spend another $2,000 to have a denial. So that's my reservation there. I mean, it's one thing to spend $2,000 and get denied, agreed. Now, to ask to do it again and then get denied is kind of, and I know the commission can never guarantee an approval, but that's my concern about
But if
doing
we
that.
approved it subject to town staff, Justin in particular, to accept and receive the revision site plans and the elevations.
I would need to do that anyway for the building department, so yes, I have no issues with that if it's something along those
So
lines.
I think it's really our comfort level, whether we feel we need to
Yeah, I
see
just
it.
wanted to see how accommodating the applicant was.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I just have to say that we're basically talking about taking a rectangle and turning it into a square.
Right.
It's really a trivial change. I really don't think he needs to spend $2,000.
Well, he's gonna,
I don't agree with that. And in any case, if we put conditions on here, you have to at least come back to the building department with a revised plot plan.
Correct.
So you're gonna have to spend some money for the revised plot
Well,
plan.
I'll probably have to spend the same money. The question is, when do you do it?
Right,
Do you
you
do
have to show
it
the
now with a question mark, or
elevations
do you
as
do it
well.
after its approval?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I wish to express my agreement with what my fellow Commissioner Peter has indicated. That from a design standpoint, it doesn't seem to be that significant of a change to reduce that rear line from 26 down to 18 feet, because the basic facade, front, side yard elevations of the structure would remain basically the same. And I don't think it's necessary for him to undergo the expense of a complete redesign and hold this, this hearing open for another couple of weeks or so forth, and cause him to, spend further funds in the design process when there's always the uncertainty that we'll have this situation that we did last time this commission met, in which there were only 5 commission members, including alternates, that were able to hear, and you needed to, the sum total of all commissioners in agreement for a motion to pass, and there's that risk of the lack of a quorum at the next meeting. So, that puts his whole application in jeopardy. So I tend to think that the commission has enough facts at its disposal at this point in time to reach a decision one way or another with regards to this application, including any modifications or conditions of an approval that this commission might want to make. Thank you.
And I guess to pick up on what you both have said, I mean, basically two sides are completely unaffected in terms of the elevation, and then it's really the windows on that one portion, right? So, but yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have to do all that anyway. But I appreciate all the comments. Do other people feel if that's the direction we were going, that we've got enough to be able to do it? Okay.
We can change the drawings and let's go. Move on.
And I should also point out, with 7 of us tonight under our rules, 5 votes are required to approve any application. So if it were 4 in favor, 3 opposed, that would be a denial rather than an approval, just to make sure everybody understands that.
Can I make a motion?
To close the hearing?
Yeah, move to close the hearing.
Are you done, Mr.
No,
Snow?
you said once, no, yes.
Okay. Motion to
Mr.
close.
Chairman, I'll move the matter forward then. Following the,
We need a second on the motion to
I'll second
close.
his motion.
sorry,
Okay, all in favor of closing the hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to move the matter forward by preparing a motion for consideration by the commission. I'll start it as a preamble by indicating that the motion that I propose would be essentially approval as submitted, but amenable to any further conditions or modifications of the motion that I would find reasonably acceptable to the initial motion. So the motion, as I see it, would be to approve the application of Mr. Patrick Snow, application number 2174-24Z, for approval by this commission in conformity with the elevations A1 through A5 as submitted by the applicant, and also the improvement location map as submitted by the applicant. And that would be the motion I'd make, and of course, subject to any further modifications or amendments offered by commission members.
So just to be clear, Tom, your motion is to approve the 18 by 26
That's right.
as proposed.
As proposed, and then I think that would be the starting point.
Peter?
I'll second that with the amendment that the dimension 26 be reduced by 8 feet.
I find that acceptable.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the application. I guess it's going to be subject to a number of conditions, but the first one is going to be that the size be reduced from 18 by 26 to 18 by 18.
Correct. That's
Okay.
the way to say it.
You want to add conditions now? What do you want?
Yeah, we should,
I-
Justin will help us with what he feels we need on the conditions as well.
Yeah, I would clarify that the starting point of the 18 feet is the front of the shed that's located on this survey right now. So in other words, it'll now be 6 feet further away from the rear property line.
Yes.
Which is shown
Yes,
as
thank
Victoria Lane direction. It'll be
Correct.
back 8 feet from Victoria Lane. Okay.
That is acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
What about,
What about
Go
no
ahead.
plumbing, no
yeah,
installation,
how
no
about,
sheetrock?
basically electrical only, and what Dave just
No
said?
insulation, no sheetrock.
No plumbing, no insulation, no sheetrock?
Let's just come back.
Do we want to say that the storage is limited to items owned by the owner of the house?
I was going to just suggest that, yes.
Okay. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
That's good.
Any others? Justin or anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I know it's a little inappropriate, but if there could be something there, and I don't even know if this is, but if the building department requires something, let's say they say around an electrical penetration, I need insulation, or just to do something, that would be something that is exempt. It's nothing I want to do, but I don't want to say, hey, you need to add a little piece of insulation here, or I can't CO the property.
Well, it's going to say
That's-
subject to engineering department approval of the changes.
We really shouldn't be
Yeah,
talking to
that was
the
just
applicant.
something.
But,
No, that's a valid point. Subject to any building code, you know. The building must be built in conformance with building code.
okay.
Building or building and life safety.
And I guess the other thing we could say is that it's approved for storage only. I don't know if we've said that, but we could put that in as well.
Yep.
That's acceptable, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else that we've left out? What about Justin?
I have nothing else, but I just want to read them back since we went through a lot. So the dimension will be reduced from 26 to 18 feet by 18 by 18 feet. The reduction of 18 feet, or the reduction of 8 feet will be on the east side of the property facing Victory Lane. There will be no plumbing, insulation, or sheetrock installed except for requirements through the building code. The only storage, the building shall only be used for storage of items by the owner of the property.
Justin, didn't you want to add that the reduction is 8 feet from the back, but the position of the current structure is as is in the front, right?
Starting position,
Yeah,
yep.
starting position remains as is in the front.
Yep. I will add that in.
Can you read your, when you're done with that, your storage language?
The structure shall only be used for storage of items owned by the property owner.
Yeah, I think it probably works that way. I guess I had in mind that we want to just affirmatively state first, the structure shall be used for storage only, and that the only items to be stored are items owned by the owner of the property? Is that a little clearer, maybe?
Sure.
Okay. And do we need to say anything about having the plans come back to you, or is that going to happen as a matter
That's
of
gonna
course
happen,
through the building
yeah.
permit process?
That will happen,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, you want to modify that a little bit and say, storage of household items owned by the owner? Because there was some concerns that he had some construction equipment, and he would be bringing that in and storing that. And so I think we'd want to not have that done, right?
Maybe what we do is add a condition that the storage shall not be used for any home occupation purposes.
Or business
Or
purposes.
business purposes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because people were concerned
Okay.
about that.
Okay.
Take care of it.
That sounds good. So you've got all those down. Anybody else have anything further, any discussion before we vote on this?
No,
Yes, I think I have some matters to offer in terms of discussion. I found the conditions that have been proposed to the original motion acceptable and reasonable. I still have, concerns about the overall application, however. So I don't think I can, even though I made the motion, I don't think I can be supportive of the motion for reasons that I'll try to explain, and I guess probably in my poor way. But I'm concerned still about the overall size of the building, even though we've reduced considerably in the motion as modified. The building footprint, it's still, in terms of total square footage, basically, we're about 175% larger than what the regulations typically allow as a matter of right.
so you're going to vote against it?
I plan to vote against it
Oh, okay.
for that's one reason why. Another reason why I'm concerned is the purpose of this. If you look at the regulations, as a matter of right in 3.6C1, which is the regulation that allows such outbuildings as a matter of right if they're 200 square feet or less. And the one that we're considering under is the modification of that, any outbuilding not complying with the above stated requirements. But you go back to C1, and it says one tool house. Now, we go back then to the whole purpose of having such outbuildings, and those purposes are indicated in C1, being one tool house, a gazebo or greenhouse for hobby or personal use. This falls within the realm in terms of purpose of such a structure as a tool house. In the parlance of many areas in the United States, this kind of outbuilding would be called a tool shed. We simply call it a shed, but what the original purpose was is to have a building on the site to store those tools, such as lawnmowers and the like, that deal with the groundskeeping purposes of the home ownership of the structure. Well, what this is being transformed into is not a tool shed, a place where you put tools that are associated with the groundskeeping of the property, but as a general storage area. And it's kind of, in essence, a substitution for what we have been approving with regards to businesses around the community of storage centers where people can put excess
So that's what
furniture,
this is. So what
furniture
are
and
you
so forth.
getting at?
What I'm getting at is that the purpose should be actually attributable to the original purpose for having tool sheds, which has to do with holding groundskeeping
Yeah,
equipment.
and
And that's not what this is being proposed to be used for. This is supposed to be used for general storage
I
area.
thought you could use personal use also. That was your last item. You could use the shed for personal use. Wouldn't this be personal use?
Well, personal use includes general storage. I mean, it's all personal property.
Yeah.
So, but this is getting away from the original purpose of having a tool shed on the property. And I also think that this is a huge increase in the size that we're approving of such structures in terms of percentage of square footage area of the occupancy of this building, and it kind of totally blows our basic 200 square foot standard off the map.
But
if we have,
this is a different location in town. This is a very large home site.
I understand that.
Okay.
But this, the regulation still is, the standard is still the 200 square feet that we're basically ignoring in this application. And I think our tradition has been to approve, storage areas or tool sheds that are much smaller, even when they're oversized above the 200 square
When we first
foot.
started the meeting, I asked, again, I wanted to be clear, the 200 square foot is, again, was that for just so we make sure we look at it? Or is the 200 where we want to be? And everybody kind of said, once you go beyond 200, we want to make sure we look at it, it fits the spot, the location. That 200 wasn't, I know we go over it, but I kind of agree with what you're saying, but if the 200 is just for us to make sure we look at it.
I think the 200
Do we want to
was,
be at 200, 300,
I
or?
think the 200 was a judgment we made that
That's where you wanna
200
be.
could fit any property in town without having to get any extra
And that was the
permission.
older part
Right.
of town. The other
Right.
three-quarters of town are
But-
four-fifths.
But other than
So
that,
we're
we
not-
really didn't care about 200.
I think
did
we
we?
were saying 201 or above is case by case based on the property, its surroundings, and it's independently evaluated once you
Yeah,
exceed
but let me say it
200.
again, though. So if someone comes in at 500,
Right.
is that not a problem if it fits? Because we just want you to make sure at 200 we look at it. Or do we want to be around 200 and everywhere? Again, you understand what I'm saying? Is the goal 200 to 300, or 200, we just want you to come in and make sure we know it fits and fit anything you want? I'm not sure what that means.
right.
Is that what you're saying?
I've always interpreted or
As
understood
200.
the
You are
200 to be the general standard for what such outbuildings should be. And if they are above that size, then there needs to be a good, solid, and reasonable justification for having it
Okay.
more
You
than
don't
that
think
size.
this- You don't think this meets it? Is
No,
that
I
what you're
don't think
getting
so. I
at?
think this is oversized
Okay.
way beyond reason from our standards.
And
And
you
it
made
may
that-
be that our standard needs to be adjusted. We need to
You're making
particularize
that
it,
point
but
on the application,
that's right.
okay. Fine,
So great. So he's saying even in the reduced, it's still
I
too
know.
big, basically. And any other, Peter?
So, I was totally against the original size. That was a no-brainer. It was just way too big, like 4 times the size of 200. I always understood 200 to be a generally applicable size that would fit anywhere in town, Dave. So then we wouldn't have to worry about people putting up these structures. If it was 200 or less, then fine, do it, anywhere you like. But if it started getting bigger than 200, then we'd have to look at it case by case. And case by case would allow, as George keeps pointing out, and I agree with him, where's it located? How big's the lot? What's the neighborhood like?
What's the zone?
What's the impedance on the neighbors and so forth? So I think, in my opinion, we've done a very good job tonight of taking into account the concerns of the neighbors by all the conditions that we put on here. I'm going to just believe and respect that Mr. Snow will abide by those conditions, which means that he's going to use this as predominantly a shed to store his personal items, could be tools, could be his son's hockey equipment, whatever. I'm not too worried about that. But I do expect that Mr. Snow puts an effort to keep this his personal property that he and his family uses. And under those conditions, I'm okay with going forward with this. As far as the size, 18 by 18, I still think it's big, but I think we have approved one roughly about 400. And if you go 18 by 18, it's like 325, Nick, I think you calculated that. So it's on the higher end of what we've approved before, so it's not a precedent that I'm too concerned with, because we've done it before. And the lot side is very big, it's huge, so it even reinforces that. Now, the condition of the downstairs, that's just an unfortunate situation of his lot. If he's gonna put this where he wants to put it, because the lot drops off, unfortunately, he's gonna have to have some sort of a walkout just to make it work, If there was any way to just keep it at 325 flat, I would have said, let's put that as an additional condition, but then he would have to move the structure, and it would just complicate everything. So, I'm okay with voting for this at this point, as changed.
George?
No, I just would like to move on.
Okay. Anybody else here?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One other thought that has occurred to me too, and that is, with due respect for the applicant and what he has promised and indicated, which I have every reason to believe he's being, truthful and honorable with this commission. This is a matter that will run with the land, so we are dependent upon, any subsequent owner to be just as forthright and honorable as the applicant here. And there's always the risk of that being an unwarranted assumption. So, thank you very much for your attention.
All right. I think to vote, we're going to have to track this one carefully.
Can I just make a comment? I mentioned that this is 325 on the level. The unfortunate situation is that because the land drops off, it does create another space underneath, which is not his doing, it's just the land. So if he had a perfectly flat lot, this would be a 325 structure, but he doesn't. So if he's going to have to dig a foundation, he's going to end up with double that. I'm not going to fault him for that because that's a condition of his site.
Ready to move the question?
Okay. All in favor? Why don't you raise your hands, I guess. All right, so it's that 1, 2, 3, 6. All opposed? Tom. All right, the application is approved. Justin, you'll check it out when the building permit ends.
Yep.
You do that thing.
All right, next public hearing, 2176, Diego Lopez seeking a special permit in accordance with section 3.5.1.E.3, permitted accessory uses for a home occupation at 26 Rockland Street. Please come up. Thank you.
Diego Lopez, 26 Rockland Street. And as I'm not too privy on how this all works, I just read what I wrote or just explain to you what I'm looking for.
Right.
Is that correct?
However you're comfortable just explaining to us is the gist of it, right?
Excellent. So I've been in the house since about 2011. I have my wife and my 2 kids, 7 and 10 years old. Prior to the coaching life that I have now, I've been a manager at all different levels from Apple, AT&T, but about 10 years ago left in order to dedicate my life to working with youth in development, specifically in soccer. In order to bolster that, I went to Central in order to get a degree in physical education, with my intention not to teach, but to continue to develop, consistently growing and working with the community. I worked at Wethersfield High School as a paraprofessional, as well as for 5 years with the JV soccer program. And ultimately, my life and mission is really to encourage and develop young athletes. I work with high schools in the summer, which is a majority of where the business comes from. I work with at the high schools. Talon High School, namely, is in year 8 this coming summer. But my idea for the home is that I utilize public spaces to be able to work with athletes, generally one-on-one, sometimes 4 or 5 kids. But the home intention is I have, and there's an image in there that I took of the small studio that I have downstairs in my basement. I used to professionally build out gyms for large businesses like Cardio Express and Edge Fitness, so I'm very well aware of how to do that. I have all the equipment, but the idea is I'd like to be able to utilize the space that when the weather eliminates any type of like reasonable safety outside, whether it's just harsh cold rain, instead of restructuring the week of the athletes that I work with, which are all youth, anywhere from 10 to maybe 18, and then I work with just a handful of collegiate athletes, to be able to have one person at a time to be able to come in and just utilize the space that I have. I also would like to restructure, just empty out my garage, really eliminate some things that I probably should have eliminated before, and no structural changes, but to be able to utilize the garage to be able to do strength training and things of that nature. I'm on my 3rd strength training and conditioning certification, so that's all qualified. The house, I do have it insured for this type of situation, as well as the LLC, which is Premier Fitness Alliance, which is the logo I have here, is as well fully insured. I work with youth all over the place, background checks. I like to consider myself a pretty upstanding neighbor. And then I also have a bunch of statements from the neighbors up and down the street in terms of being in support. I like to be considerate, I like to be a good neighbor, I like to help shovel when somebody might be having trouble, and I spend a lot of time outside and communicating with the neighbors. So I know the biggest struggle would be the impact to traffic. I'd love people to park right in my driveway. Some people drive a little bit too big cars, so parking right in front of my house would be the most major thing. I put an example of what my schedule generally is. So sometimes it's 1 kid, sometimes it's 1 or 2 or 3 hours. It won't go very late because I'm very diligent in being aware as to how important it is for my kids to sleep, and I have no intention of disrupting that, but I'd like to have a place that instead of redoing everybody's schedule, which is complicated for parents with young athletes, then instead we can fall back on my home to be able to utilize it in a good, safe way. I also think it's important to mention that it's all fully 24/7 recorded, meaning that everything that happens with anywhere that these young athletes will be is going to be fully recorded in terms of, because that's important for me, just to make sure for the safety of the kid and myself to make sure that it's all done properly. So professionally built out, which I've already done a number of gyms, one of which I ran for 2 years and then sold it. But that's the idea of the use, to be able to use it as a fallback or when the weather's bad, instead of going to rent gyms in Newington and South Windsor, which I'm doing now, to be able to use that space. Again, only one athlete at a time, and generally like maybe 1, 2 hours, 3 hours, and besides that, then it's tiring. So I don't plan on it being like high traffic and disrupting to the neighborhood.
George.
Justin, why is he here?
So the only thing that brings him here tonight is the fact that he's having clients come to his house. Everything else is in line with the regulations, but our special permit requirements for home occupations say if you have anybody coming to your house for like a salon, training, anything like that, it has to come here. So it's, to be honest with you, this is a very straightforward application.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Do you have any employees, or are you sole?
Just by myself. I have, when I worked for Apple, I opened Apple New Haven, I had 100 employees. I have really no intention of having any type of employees. More importantly, inviting any employees into my house. I've never had employees. Last summer, I had a soccer player run a high school trading, which is which was at Hartford Magnet School, but never will I have somebody in my home and utilizing that. It's not at all what I would like to do, and I will quite honestly never do that.
That's good, because that would negate anything that we could approve.
Mhm.
That would automatically say no to your application.
Yeah.
I mean, you can run it as a sole proprietor without employees, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And just in terms of, potentially, could one of the appointments be any day of the week, or are there certain days you wouldn't do them?
So it can't be every day, because I also coach for CFC, Connecticut Football Club, likely taking on 2 teams, and so that takes me away. So what has generally worked out is they're generally like Monday and Friday can work, and sometimes like a Sunday, but I also value the time with my family. I imagine I work with kids that eventually go off to college, and so I see parents all the time saying, you know, slow down, spend time with your kids. So by no means do I need to have 15 athletes and like just rolling in and out. I think that's going to disrupt my quality of life. I also like to be at my kids' games. I'm strict, so if there's a game where I normally have training times, it's just simply not an option. But I have, last summer I overextended myself by all my trainings, and I did about the equivalent of 2 marathons of movement a week, and my body was shot. And so I have no intention of overextending, hiring people, scaling the business. I have access to Synergy Fitness in South Windsor if I wanted to do something where I brought somebody else in, and that's completely separate. Right. But there is never, and I've managed people for a long time, that is not something that I'm going to do.
So is this more like 1 or 2 or 3 people a day as opposed to 7 hours of
Oh yeah, I don't
people, right?
Really, and if you figure the kids that I work with, the parents work, so maybe they can make it in my house at 5.
Yeah.
I like a 10-minute segue because I also have a really strong relationship with the kids I work with in terms of like a mentorship.
Yeah.
So I don't like it being like, I used to train at a gym where like the second 30 minutes is done, then I'm off to another person. I just think that's kind of a little different than how I operate.
Generally speaking, what would be like the earliest in the morning that you would?
I wouldn't, because they would all be at school.
Okay. And
then generally soccer games are in the morning, Saturday and Sunday. Also my kids who are 7 will go to Star Hill and Thailand, and it'll be like an 8 o'clock in the morning game. And also with the athletes and teenage, it's normally that, like if I'm going to work, the best time for them to get performance is that 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when it's not really disruptive. And again, I wouldn't go late because then I'm going to impact my kids. I wouldn't go early because the kids are going to be a disaster if they try to work out at that point.
Okay, George.
1 or 2 kids at a time?
Just one.
One
at a time, he said.
One at a time.
Okay.
The space is, the studio that I have now, so I work with my own children in it, and it's awesome. But I want to use the garage to be able to just not have it be so tight. The space that I have in the photo is split in half, where one wall is, you can kick the ball off the wall, and the other side is like a little bit of a strength training. But the strength training, if you back up a little bit, you're on the turf, and at that point, the footing is not very good.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions, Tony?
This approval or the proposal would be just for the garage or for the whole property, the house and the garage?
Well, I have the studio already built downstairs that I could use inside, but I'd like to be able to utilize the garage simply because, again, I'd just be able to have a little bit of space where the proximity to the kid would be a little, the garage is 160 square feet.
So you're going to have to build a shed to move the stuff from the garage?
No. I gotta tell you, that was so stressful. I wasn't even part of it.
It's painful over here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I mean, I really, not to be funny, but I have things, I have an attic that has plenty of space, and I'd like to really, I don't want to call myself a minimalist, but I'm in the direction now of starting to get rid of things. So I'll eBay stuff and sell stuff, or go and pay to have it dropped off at the dump.
So this sounds more like a side hustle, right?
This is,
Side gig, it's not a full-time job here.
it is a full-time job, but
I mean,
the primary
garage,
business.
garage.
Yeah, it's more of a solution, because I'll have a family that travels from Branford, and then it starts to thunder, and now I'm gonna send them back to Branford.
Right.
And to me, it's just, and scheduling with kids is tough. Honestly, I think kids these days are overextended. So for them to have to go and then drive from Farmington or Tolland, and then, it's thunder, a 5-minute down the road solution to be able to just finish off the session, then it creates a little bit of a different experience for the family. Or instead of just reshifting, they're on vacation, Monday's the only day, then I can say, okay, if it's bad weather, then we can utilize the space.
Okay. Yes, neighborhood feedback has been fine, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and not to pat myself on the back, but I really try to be a good neighbor. I try to help, my wife and I keep the yard great. We're helping our neighbors. Our neighbor from across the street who ended up passing away is a blind gentleman. I shovel all the time. I don't really ask much, and I do speak with the community, and to be able to just have people realize we are good people. And a lot of the people that wrote in the forum have been there for a long time, so they know we're good people. They know my kids. They know my wife, and I just try to help. So if somebody's busy, I finish my driveway and it's shoveling, and so I'll go and help them. I really have no issue.
Thank you for that effort. It does matter.
No, because I like to consider myself a good Christian, to be able to go and help other people without expecting anything. Sometimes we get cookies from across the street. I like the cookies. So,
Justin, does this follow the land?
Yes, it does. Yeah. But it would have to follow the same stipulations that you put on it right now, so it would have to be essentially a coaching type home occupation with one student at a time.
Not a hairdresser, for
Any
Exactly.
reason to put a timeline on it?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Peter?
Just back to the cars and parking. I drove by there today. It looks like you got a double driveway.
a double driveway and 4 cars can fit, but some people have a Suburban, and I just don't want to interrupt the sidewalk. So that's the only, if they were to park right in front of my house.
Oh, okay.
And we're very, very close with Zanera, who's right across the street, so we park in her driveway. If she's not there, we had Easter, so she said, hey, just use my driveway, and she's got 2 car lengths that she could put in there, and she watches her grandkids all the time. So if it was ever a situation like that, hey, but honestly, people park on the street all the time with pickup trucks and big cars all over the place, but.
All right, thank you.
So that's not at all an issue with T-Bone?
More questions on the commission? Public comment on this one?
Well, I think it's kind of big for the street.
No plumbing.
Have you checked it?
Yeah, I drove by there this afternoon.
Yep.
All right.
I don't believe it.
Any more questions by the commission? Anything further from the applicant? Or you covered everything you'd like to cover?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is what I do full-time. I've left everything to be able to do this, to be able to impact the community. So, but in terms of the actual usage, I think I would really prefer, it's more difficult to do strength training, or, I love everything that I've had. I've been able to put in my car and go to a park or go to SDMS, and, I've been there. It's funny, the UPS guy and the neighbors wave at me when it's the beginning of summer, because they know that I'm there. The neighbors that are all around there, they know me. So I like that. It gives me more space, kick a ball and things like that. But if we need to fall back, then, I have not only the certifications, but also the knowledge to be able to connect the development to the game.
If nobody has any further questions, would somebody like to move to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to
Dave,
close
is
the
there a
hearing.
second? Peter? I think Peter got you first by a second.
That's all right, you can do it. He can do
All right,
it.
Tom. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, hearing is closed. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make
Motion made to approve.
Or a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any conditions
I think we should consider mentioning that it is a one-on-one soccer strength training or one-on-one individual training. I think you implied that it's important to do pursuant to section 3.5-2.
Why do you want to do that? So
Just because it follows the land, and if somebody wants to put a beauty salon in here or something else.
what happens if the kid picks up a baseball glove in his garage? He's got to tell him to put it down?
A baseball club? We need to have a baseball club first. Which we don't.
If it follows, should we define it so it is a one-on-one?
I guess the question is if we just say, approved as submitted in the application, it's pretty specific in the application, isn't it, Justin?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine.
Is that acceptable to the motion and second?
George?
George?
Yeah?
Tom, you second it?
Yeah, I second.
Okay.
Okay. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Application is approved.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck is right.
All right. Next up, other business, no other business, minutes. I think we've only got 4 people here who were at that meeting.
What's that got to do with it?
You can prove it.
You can't approve minutes if you're not at?
I read the minutes, I wasn't there, so I think I'd vote.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying a lot of times people choose to abstain who weren't at the meeting. How's that, George? All right.
I like it George wasn't too wordy.
Yes. Yes.
What?
So,
I like it that you weren't too wordy.
Yeah, right. There you go.
anybody have any
I
corrections?
never am, you know that.
Any
I'm a very
comments?
quiet guy.
Any comments on the minutes, George, or corrections?
Oh, no,
Nope.
none at all.
All right, did somebody,
Motion to approve the minutes?
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Minutes are approved. Staff reports.
Just a couple things for you. You'll see in your packet, there is a report from Joya Zach, our Economic Development Director. This is sort of her monthly report to the EDIC and the redevelopment agency. I think in the past, we've typically sort of included it every so often. My plan was going to be kind of include it quarterly, but we're happy to include it every month if you want. It's up to you guys.
No, I don't want to see it every month.
Okay. So we'll do quarterly.
I'm very blunt about it, no. But every 2 or 3 months might be good, yeah.
Sure. And I mean, the nice thing with her report is it kind of gives the 3-month recap. So, so we'll
It
plan to do
doesn't
quarterly.
change that much, so.
When is the next CDIC meeting?
Let's see, it'd be,
Not this week.
no, it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah.
These are available online within the EDIC minutes, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
Yeah, okay, now you can get it any time then, right?
Yeah, you could, if you want them more frequent, you're welcome to. You know, we kind of included it for, if you don't want them at all, we don't have to give them, that's up to you guys too.
Yeah, all you gotta do is call up the planning officer, happy down there to give you anything you want down there.
So,
Yes.
I have a general question for you, Justin. First time ever I had dinner at Sora's on Silent Actually, nice little place, I enjoyed it. Met the guy. Actually, he was born not far from where I was born, and so we had something in common to talk about, so it was kind of fun. And he talked about putting some tables out front. You know, told
This is
him that I was
who
in
now, Pete? I didn't catch who it was.
Sora's restaurant.
Sorry.
Yeah. Is that possible over there?
It's possible, would he be taking up parking spaces with it?
Yeah, he'd be removing 2 park, that's what I told him, I said, it
Yeah.
all depends on parking.
Yeah.
And I asked him to come see you.
Yep, so yeah, he hasn't seen me yet, but yeah.
He may come see you and he'll talk about that.
There's definitely a way to get there. It would have to come through, you know, this group just to kind of talk about the parking reduction and then the outdoor seating, but, you know, it's definitely a trend right now, so, yeah, we like to try to help as best we can.
All right.
So, other thing I'll mention is we had our kickoff meeting with FHI Studio for the affordable housing, well, technically the affordable housing plan and the plan of conservation development. So the people who have volunteered, and I want to make sure I have the list right for the subcommittee, we have Peter, we have Tom, we have Tony, and I think Dave Edwards had. Is anybody else? Okay, perfect. So we'll, be having updates for that as we go. We're hoping to have it done within the next year or so. And, that's the contract time anyway, so.
How often will you come in front of us? Every 4 months, maybe?
Yeah, we'll have updates every, probably 4 months or so. The goal is for the subcommittee to meet monthly, and then we'll have, the larger updates. So yeah, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, any correspondence? I don't see any.
The only correspondence was the comments for the...
And these public hearings for future, are
Yeah,
they
the
all?
pending? Can you
Yeah, are
talk?
they all gonna be next time, or are they spread out?
The pending hearings, they are all for the next meeting, yes. So in theory, we have the Charles,
Yep.
we have the 1000 Silas Dean.
Excellent to see, 1,000 Silas team.
Yeah,
Good luck.
we'll see, how that goes.
It's gonna be retail, right?
Well, there's a retail component to it. It's primarily sort of an accessory use of storage and distribution. So, we'll see.
Is that a new owner?
Yeah, he bought the property a year and a half ago or so.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. Then the next one is it's a renewal of a boat that you had previously approved at 42 Crest Street. It was a 2-year approval, so he's coming back in for the renewal. And then the re-subdivision is very, very simple. They're just cutting a small piece off. Technically, it's more like a lot split than a subdivision, but because it's been subdivided before, it has to come to you guys.
Okay. All right, if that's all we got, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, sorry, public comment. Yes. No comment, okay.
Thank you.
So I think we've covered it now, right?
Now you're good.
All right, anybody like to move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Peter, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This
All right.
Tom Weaver just misses him.
Hey, Tom, since you got off the council, you're not making